Studies. Today we have the first workshop on short story writing given by Mr. Refaat Alareer, lecturer at the Islamic University of Gaza and the editor of Gaza, Palestine and Gaza Unsilenced. We plan to make it the first workshop in series. So if you are interested, more workshops will follow.
Every week, every month?
We'll discuss this later. So basically today we'll start talking about short story writing and fiction writing, and then we will agree on the following lectures. You have some papers in front of you. Please do raise questions and comments. So this is a workshop, it's not a lecture. So we expect you to participate and to engage actively in the discussion.
Okay, thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you UNICEF for welcoming those who showed up. Sorry for this mess. If you believe teaching is acting, or training is acting, it's going to be fun. If you don't, bear with us. So these are Al Jazeera guys. They're doing a documentary on writing in Palestine and mainly about this book. So when they knew that we're doing this session, we're not using you as lab rats. When they knew you were doing this session, they said, okay, we want to take some footage. Okay, so probably they can talk to some of you. So again, that's the thing. These are Al Jazeera guys, and they're making a short documentary, like an 8-minute documentary on writing and fiction in Gaza. But other than this, we're cool. So sorry again for the distractions and the mess, but let's get started. Before we do anything else, I'm going to do 2 exercises. There should be this blank sheet of paper in front of each one of you, or use your own. Also a pen or a pencil, or use your own if you don't have any. I want you to write, I don't know if I'm allowed to move. Can I move? Or? Okay. So I want you to just write one sentence. One sentence. Why you came here? Why you thought it would be good or great or important, or I don't know, for you to come here when you were told, when you read on Facebook that there is a creative writing, short fiction, and writing Palestine session. You can start now. So just take 1 minute or 2 minutes and give me just one reason in one sentence. I'm going to pick some of you and see what you have to tell me. Write. Remember, this is a writing session. So write. Whatever you have in mind, don't worry about grammar or idea or being sophisticated. Just the first reason that Okay, 1 minute.
Thank you for having us today.
You don't have to do this. Go on.
Okay. So the reason why I came here today to develop my writing skills so I can use my own words to let the whole world to know the truth in a language they understand about Palestine.
Writing, the whole world, and truth. Okay. Thank you. Someone else? Please, what's your name? What's your name? Okay, Nisma.
I came here because I think it's great to get the same title addressed by different people who reflect their own perspectives.
People, perspectives, interesting. Keywords. What's your name?
My name is Yara. I came here because I feel like writing is the way to run away from our lives or usual stuff. So
Writing is the way to escape
from our
reality.
lives.
If I give you this, hold it. It doesn't bite, okay? Just hold it.
Shall I say it
Yeah,
again?
say it again.
I came here because I feel like writing is the way to run away from our life, ourselves, our usual habits and facts.
Okay, so when you write, you create your own world and you escape the reality that's surrounding you. Someone here? Please? You hold it.
I came here actually to improve my writing skill, first of all, and second, I want to use my voice, to write my voice, going over the world to talk about Palestine. I mean the Palestine catastrophe. I found it the only way to fight right now.
Interesting sentence. So writing, again, the rest of the world, voice, developing, writing, Palestine.
So maybe recently I was asking myself how my favorite writers could write their masterpiece. So I really want to know how they could do that.
Do you know how to summarize this whole thing in one word? That's reading, and the question is, how is reading related to writing? So she's been reading a lot, and she's wondering how, oh my God, how can you create this? How, and it happens to us when we watch movies, when we read stuff, sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, sometimes we are pulled into the text, sometimes we live the text, we visualize, we create our own world, only by reading words on dry ink on a piece of paper or something. So how do those people do this? We want to see this. Thank you.
As Palestinians, this is our role to consider all shapes or gems of cultures and resistance as well. Writing is an example.
So writing is culture and writing is resistance.
Yes.
Interesting perspective. Writing is resistance as Palestinians. And you know what that means? Someone else? One or two more? Okay. Yes?
I think that I need to develop my writing skills because of the siege that we suffer from. I cannot contact with others. So I think by writing I can transfer my thoughts, our issue to the world, even if we are in a siege and we couldn't travel abroad.
So again, we insist on this writing as a means of transmitting and transforming experiences, feelings, emotions, messages, and stuff. Someone else here? On the guys? On the girls?
Yes.
Okay. Which one of you? Okay.
So this is the first time I join a writing session, and it's never too late to join any of workshops. So I would like to improve my writing skills, especially writing a short story, because I never wrote a short story.
You want to write a short story?
Yeah, I would like.
Because you've never written a short story. That's it? Just writing for the sake of writing?
And to publish it for the other students.
Writing and
people
publishing.
Yeah.
Do you feel it sounds simplistic, by the way, I just want to write. But don't you sometimes feel that writing is a very important thing to kind of externalize ourselves or our problems or sufferings? That writing helps us heal, heal, like when wounds heal. Writing helps us face our problems and the world in a way or another, where it's like looking into a mirror when you just woke up, when you wake up early in the morning and you look into the mirror just to see how you look, so you can, do the stuff you do to your face and your hair. A piece of writing for so many people is something similar. When you write something, some people say you can never make sense of anything around you unless you talk about it. And necessarily, writing helps more. That's why in therapy and when you go to a shrink or go to a psychologist, they always want you to talk. Whatever you talk about, just talk. Because when you talk, you materialize yourself, your problems. In one of the stories in Gaza Writes Back, there's one of my stories titled House. I think it took me like 1 year to write the story. And when I wrote it, I never thought of what we teach at university, themes or conflicts and characterization. And when I wrote the story, a year later, I said, oh my God, I think in this story I'm clearly, and by the way, I hate all people. I don't know why. All people in authority who are above 50 are, ogres, like monsters to me. So I have this thing, I think they always want to put us down, to just marginalize the young people, not to give them the chance to speak, to be themselves. So I have this thing towards those people, and I saw it very clear in the book, although I never did any kind of effort just to, I'm going to know, okay, one of the themes I want to include in this story is this. Just I found it, and I found it almost a year later. And that is for some people, this is something serious and dangerous, because when you write yourself, you expose yourself. You put yourself, your life, your feelings, your emotions, your likes, your dislikes out there for people to just gaze at. And we see this when people write stuff on Facebook. Yeah. You read them, you understand something about them. And we do this all the time. When you go to someone, when you want to know somebody, or when you friend somebody, when you meet somebody, you just go to their Facebook and
see the writings.
Yes.
Exactly. But be careful, always check for plagiarism. Because 90% of what is on our walls on Facebook is plagiarized. So maybe you're going, oh my God, I'm falling in love with Shakespeare, and she turns out to be a plagiarist, or somebody who is just copy and pasting stuff. So that's the first point. Unless someone wants to really say something.
I want to say something.
Okay, go on.
Okay. There is a book called Zen in the Art of Writing, in which the author says, explains the significance of writing and also how to write creatively. And he says something that life gives us a gift to be human beings, and so we have to reward life back by writing. So whenever we write, we create another life far away from aggressions and wars. And also, whenever you feel afraid or angry, when you write these feelings down, you feel relieved, and you feel like if these feelings remain inside you, you will just explode one day. So you give them back in order just to feel relieved from these feelings.
That's also another interesting perspective that reminded me of something I always say in my writing classes, that writing is an act of sacrifice. And to me, this is the crucial point of, if you want to write, you need to understand this. Because we'll see later on, when we write, we want to write everything. If you write everything, that's not good writing, by the way. Writing is about choosing and selecting. It's about narrowing down. It's about zooming in. Being very specific. Very specific. Especially that we're talking about short story, not novels, not movies or plays or huge pieces of writing. We'll see this. When you write a story, and sometimes I'll say this probably later on if we decide to take another course. We're going to say that the most important point in a story is the grabbing opening, the powerful opening. Because in journalism, they say you have 12 seconds to win the reader. 12. If in 12 seconds, the reader does not like you or your writing or your idea or anything, he's going just to give up, or she. Same applies to fiction. I had a friend, I always give him as an example. He says, I have never in any book in the world gone past page 12. خلص بصل صفحة 11 وخلص بسيب. وأنا مقتنع إنه الذكاء والإنجاز في العالم والعبقرة بتيجي بعد صفحة 11. عشان يقول لك أنا I'm never going to get that. He always gives up. And this is a very demanding reader. Demanding in the sense that it's not easy to satisfy or to please him. So when we talk about the introduction and then or the opening, when we come to the conclusion of the story, to the ending of the story, it usually comes by itself. But the worst thing about conclusions is that, or endings, is that we always have 5 scenarios or 3 scenarios for any story. Which one should we include? Can we include all? No. And then we have to sacrifice. That's why I say it's an act of sacrifice, because when we write, we want to write everything, especially when it is an assignment at university, and we're counting words. We have 1,500 words, and so, okay, a book on the table. Okay, a book on the table. No, there was a book on the big red wooden table. Oh, that's
Amazingly.
so we want to write amazingly amazing. Right. So we want to write more. More is not always more. Sometimes, and this is a very important slogan in writing, less is sometimes more. Less is sometimes more. أحيانا تلاقي paragraph عبارة عن 3 كلمات أو كلمتين. One whole paragraph, just one sentence, one short sentence, 3 words, 4 words.
Means a lot.
Exactly. Okay, that's something. So we have so many ideas. All of them are really interesting, and all of us want to improve and take our voice out there and communicate, reach out to the world. My second exercise is going to take like 5 to 7 minutes. Again, I want you to write. I want you to think of something real that happened to you in the past 6 or 7 years. Maybe during the war. Something that you still remember. Something that somebody said, like your sister, your grandmother, a guy on the radio, some freedom fighter, your friend, I don't know, your teacher, sentence or a statement or anything. Okay? So when you take this, like I always remember something my own daughter asked me in 2009, and the first was she approached me and asked me who created the Jews. Something like this, something that you still remember, that something that still rings a bell, like whatever, something that changed something about your life. Something that you still think of. When you go back to the war, we think of all horrible stuff. Something that could be, by the way, funny, or sad, or ironic, or sarcastic, or something that made you laugh, or made you wiser, or dumber maybe, or... Do you get what I'm trying to say here? Do you have things in mind?
Yes.
Anything, okay. If you don't have any, think of anything that happened in your life. It doesn't have to be in the past 6 or 7 years. It could be anything that you still remember, something that a taxi driver said, something that you took as a wisdom, something that when you heard, you just took it to Facebook or Twitter and just posted to the world, or you wrote it on your own diaries. Could be a statement, could be a warning, could be a proverb, could be something. Just write it down. That's number 1. Number 2. That's number 1. Number 2, tell me something about the setting. What's the setting?
Where?
Where and when, mainly. And number 3, what and who. What was going on? Who was there? If there were other people. So I'll give you an example here.
Does it have to be an academic writing then?
No. That's not academic writing. This is not academic writing. This is creative writing. This is fiction. This is short story. Don't care about grammar for now. We just want to write. We just want to bring something else. So in the first war, 2008, 2009, bombs were falling, shells were falling, everyone was scared, was cold, was dark, we had no electricity, we were running out of food, we didn't have water. But again, this is general. We're not yet there. We don't want to go specific for them. Just we want to write. When all of a sudden my 5-year-old daughter Shayma, she was 5 then, I was sitting with my kids and wife, and she came to me, looked at me and said, Dad, who created the Jews? Okay, so what I just did here is that I gave you the setting. I was at home, was the war, was dark, was night, was cold. We were running out of water and food and stuff. And I have my wife, my daughter, and my 2 sons, my kids. That's it. Just I want you to do this in something that this size. Unless your handwriting is huge, then it has to be this size.
Can you say like something can happen to us, not like someone would say it?
Say again?
Something can happen to us, not like someone who says something.
Okay, but yeah, if it is something that happened to you, just something that happened without somebody saying something, it's okay. But I want this because we're going to take it and develop it into something. Okay? Think of anything that happened to you, something that you really want to convey to the people. Could be funny, could be dark, could be sarcastic, could be ironic.
It could be someone that, right?
Yeah. If you have problems starting, beginning, in creative writing, we give this sentence, I remember. Just write I remember, and then take from there. It's going to help you write. You have 5 minutes. If you need help, raise your hand and I'll show up. Don't know a meaning of a word, just skip it. Bring the easiest word you know. It's not about grammar and structure. Just you remember? I remember. Just write I remember. It's going to come out. You started already? Very good, interesting. Who's stuck? Is anybody stuck? It's okay. It's natural if you're stuck. If you're stuck, say, I remember 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. Are you done? Can you go through it again? Maybe you want to add something, remove something. I remember. I remember some, okay, go on, like 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Just free writing, brainstorm. 15 words, that's free writing. As long as you're writing, as long as the pen is on the table, the words are going to come out. طالما وقعت الكلام انه جنبه ايش ولا حد I remember during لحد الحين مش عارفين نحكي. I remember 2 years ago during the war. فانت بتلاقي عقلك ايش بيسوي؟ بيعمل لك narrowing down for your life, for your experiences. Maybe you want to take things at home. I was at home with my family. حد الان انت مش عارف تكتب لكن يصير narrowing down. شوف كيف في الكورة لما يجيبوا الهايلايتس يجيبوا دايرة حول رونالدو وميسي وكذا وبداية فأنت اللي تتفرج على هذا بتصير مش عارف عمين تطلع يعني تطلع الهايلايت على مدافع. I'll give you one hint before I listen to some of you. This thing that you just wrote could be your best piece of writing ever. Yeah, it could be. Don't underestimate what you have to take here. Who's stuck? Is anybody else stuck? في حاجة يسموها writer's block. مرت عليكم؟ Writer's block is that when a writer doesn't have anything to write about. Okay. One minute. Who doesn't want to stop writing? Yeah. See, like so many people complain about, writer's block, but seriously, the most problematic thing about writers is that they want to write more. They want to write so many things. So what should I write? There are so many things I can write about, but okay, I don't want to write. So you give up because you have so many things, so many ideas. Okay, stop, please. I want to ask a question. Has any one of you discovered something new about yourself, about life, or about anything from your own writing? Just, you're like, oh my God, I just saw this, I just paid attention to this. Anything. Like you realize something, some kind of revelation. Revelation, like inspiration or something that might help you reread things or reconsider things?
Yes.
Like now or
In this piece. Now.
I remember I was feeling something and I hear this song actually. My years, I forget about it. And when I write it now, I just remember it.
Exactly, it just comes out.
Yeah.
And everyone involved in writing has to remember this. تقول لك مش عارف اكتب، طب انا ماشي انت مش عارف تكتب لك مش قاعد على الكمبيوتر وعامل ايديك هيك. يبقى انا بقعد على الكمبيوتر. There's something called free writing. You know what free writing is?
Yeah.
Just write. If you don't free write, you don't write. So don't complain about the writer's block if you just are not doing this.
Writing is freedom.
So somebody here is remembering things, recalling things that she thought she would never, remember. Now the words are, the words have become, the concrete reality of that particular memory. Who else? Okay, so. How did you feel, or something that just showed up all of a sudden?
I once read something and I said that standing in front of the camera is stressful. And then that's what I thought it was, and then I continued in my writing. And then someone said to me, why is it stressful? And then I don't know, it has to be stressful. So then when I started writing, I started to think about it, and then I started to think that yes, it is stressful because the things that you usually do in your everyday in your daily life, the smile on the side of the face, the look in the eyes, the way you move your hands, these are things that you usually do. But when you are in front of the camera, you start to think, and these things start to leak in your head, and they want to change to change you. And when you start to change them or want to change them, you start to become nervous. So this.
How does writing help you realize this?
It made me analyze things. So I wasn't aware before that this is why I'm stressful.
Writing has this thing of helps you analyze. For some, it helps you synthesize. You know what analyze is? Analyze is تفكيك. Synthesize is construction. Is writing? This is a serious question. Is writing mainly about analysis or synthesis? Is writing about deconstructing, تفكيك, fragmenting life and experiences, or about constructing them? Putting. Okay, good that I get two answers. Again, one more. Not sure if you get my question. My question is that now that you're writing, not أنا خلص من كده شيء ثاني. My question is my question is again, listen. This is a serious question. Like sometimes when you write, you remember things. Sometimes when you write, you see things differently. When you write, you tend to reconsider things. When you write, you see things anew, or see things afresh. Did you feel this? Okay.
I actually haven't read that, and he always shocks me with his questions. He always asks questions, strange questions. I think that these questions are older than his age, When I write now, when I was writing, I thought that the children can ask questions older than their age, the real age, because of the circumstances that they face in their lives. So the experience that they live can make them older than their age, and they can get the wisdom from the life that they live.
But maybe before you felt that he was annoying.
Yes.
You would just want to punch him. You just want to have quality time on Facebook, just ignore him.
Yes.
But now you're putting that experience in words, you start to say, oh my God, I think I was rude, I was horrible, I was condescending, I was whatever you were. Okay. So anybody else? Any revelation here or there? Inspiration? Okay, I want someone to read me her or his piece. نازل ما شاركوش. Okay, let's see Sarah. Rasha.
During the last war, I lost a house and my first home. I suffered the pain of loss that I couldn't escape for a long time. I couldn't find any justification for it other than the ideas that kept wandering in my mind. Do homes feel lonely when their residents leave? Do walls suffer when they couldn't hear their whispers? What will happen to our home when we left everything behind? Our memories and laughters are now buried beneath the ruins of our home, or are they still hovering around, comforting the grieving walls?
Very good. Can you read again and be a little bit slow so we can, because I want to ask your friends questions about your piece.
During the last war.
And everyone else, visualize. Visualize, create your own world, and try to live in her story. If you can't do that, it's either because the writing needs to be more specific and visual and concrete, or you need to work on your imagination. Go on.
During the last war, I lost a house and I lost my first home. I suffered the pain of loss that I couldn't escape for a long time. I couldn't find any justification for this pain other than the ideas that kept wandering in my mind. Do homes feel lonely when their residents leave? Do walls suffer when they can't hear their whispers? What will happen to our home where everything was left behind? Our memories and laughters are all now buried beneath the ruins of our home, or they are still hovering around, comforting the grieving walls.
Somebody touched by this.
Yes.
What is it? What is it?
Like I was imagining myself like I'm his sister, or I'm her actually. Like if I return home, my memories, my everything, my home, my house.
Do you remember anything from what she just said?
Yes, actually on the first war,
No, from her own piece. Anything, any phrase, any question that, oh my God.
It's our laughers and our laughers and our cries will go underneath the roofs.
Underneath the house. Very good. What else? Somebody else? Do you still remember a phrase or a question or a sentence that?
We said that do homes feel lonely?
Oh yeah, interesting.
Evacuated.
We've always spoken about or read about people and how they feel, how horrible, how sad, how lonely, right? How homesick because you have to leave your home. But this is a totally different new perspective that drags you into the text, that tells you this writer has some good stuff for you, something to reward you for reading, something to, like expand your own thinking, your own world view. And if you do this when you read the text, or when somebody talks and you just follow them or visualize what they're doing, it means they're doing something great, and it means you can easily be part of it. So I was personally, oh my God, that's new. I've never thought of this before. What does that mean to our writing? It means that your writing doesn't have to be all about this. Some people think that you have to bring all new structures and expressions and characterization. Everything has to be new. No. The story could be as normal as any story in the world. But here and there, you just send what some people call a reward for the reader. we speak about this when we talk about the conclusion. Some people think there must always be a reward in the conclusion. كأنه يعني بيقول القارئ أشكرك إنك استحملت قدامي وقريت لي هالثلاث أربع صفحات. Here is your reward. Where you present them with a new world view, new idea, or sometimes a new phrase, or a new image, or metaphor, or expression, something that is going to live with you forever. I'm sure here, if we forget everything, لو أنا وقفت أكتب خلاص يلا شكرا, thank you. Let's drink the stuff here and go home. I'm sure you're going to remember this forever. Unless you have always thought of this yourself, and this is going to empower that point. Very good. Can you tell me, somebody, about how to improve this piece? Someone else. صفحة ولا ثانوي تاني الجامعة فانتبهوا واو. How can you improve it? How can you make it better? Of course, it can always be better, but that's the core of the story.
She should give details.
Okay.
She started with, during the last war, I lost a house, my first home. Tell me about that home. She gave questions about, does it feel lonely if we go? Tell us how you were close to the walls, how the type of memories you had.
So in other words, she did what most writers do all the time. She told us, she didn't show. We always want to tell. The taxi driver was mean. He was rude. The teacher was horrible. All the teachers are horrible. My friend was cute. She was generous. I love her. I like her. The class was boring. The class was hectic. I don't know. These are all telling. And telling is usually very childish. نسميها هذا سميرفي أو سميرفش. طريقة الصنفورية طريقة السنافر في السرد. إنه السنافر لما تسمعوا المقدمة بعدها يقول لك وكان شرشبيل رجل شرير مباشرة. They don't give any room for the reader to think for himself or herself. فقبل ما نبدأ السنافر حنعرف إنه شرشبيل طبعا غير الشكل. That Gargamel is evil and that the Smurfs are pure good. We were taught. We were framed. Always show. But it's impossible to do everything in this kind of showing, showing. But showing should be more than telling. Telling is again when you describe somebody or some place directly without helping us visualize what's going on, particular experience. Okay, we'll see this in a bit with more. Someone else? خلينا نفصل الشباب. And I'll get back to you. Again, I'll ask the same questions here. So please.
It's short one. 1 year ago, after the war, while sitting in front of the sea with my friend, he told me, life in Gaza is different. To live here, you have to survive a number of wars. Then you can die normally.
Okay. Very good. That's us, right? We had this thing, like we've been through this. So, is there anything different? Anything that, any new perspective?
He gives the opposite.
And okay, say again.
1 year ago, after the war, while sitting in front of the sea with my friend, he told me, life in Gaza is different. To live here, you have to survive a number of wars. Then you can die normally.
So Walid, what's your understanding?
He gives the opposite. Most people in most countries, they live normally and at the end they die in a war or in an accident. This is the opposite in Gaza.
So in Gaza, how is it the opposite?
We live every moment of the war or wars, and then we live our life. Then it's gone.
Do you agree or disagree with Walid? Agree or disagree?
Disagree. I think that.
Agree or disagree? Disagree? Who agrees with Walid? He's a good guy. Come on. Do you agree or disagree with Walid? Anybody agrees with Walid that it's in Gaza it's the opposite? He's giving us a different world view. So you all totally unanimously agree that Walid is wrong?
It's not like that. It's just that people die because of war. A lot of people die because of war.
That's what Walid
We must die at the end.
Yeah, but you said that most of us die normally.
You cannot
What
generalize.
like what I think what I understood from what he said when he said we die normally, it's like it's the wish. Like most of us die because of wars, most of us die because of injuries, and then all we want is to survive the wars and just die peacefully in a bed in a hospital or at home. Just die like normal people die, but it's different. So it's like it's the
This is a
opposite.
fact after all. This is a fact, right?
Do you agree or disagree with Walid?
Hard.
Walid thinks that it's the opposite. What he says here, Zahir, what's your name? Rahim.
I think that you cannot generalize that because some people die normally and some people die because of the war. But the idea that I get from this story that you are being tortured, by some means like war, then they don't give you the pleasure to die with the tool that you were tortured by. I mean, you just suffer of fear and fear and loss. Then you die with another
What
means.
does a story that generates different opinions and views tell you?
It's a good story.
It's a good story. That's my point here. But I almost failed because you didn't want to agree with Walid.
I actually agree with both of them.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It's not a fact.
A story that generates different reactions, different opinions, different readings, because listen, we are different. We are different, everybody is different. So we don't get out the very same thing from the story as like everybody else. And like there's something called reader response theory, where people that like sometimes they go to the extreme to say that there are as many meanings to a text as there are readers. Because when we read, we bring everything. That's one kind of doing things. My point here is that what he wrote is what we usually should use or say to comment on the story, not the story. And this is كمان مرة كيف نعرف إنه فيها telling مش showing القصة. إذا الكلام فيها شرح إذا تذكرين reading comprehension passages في المدارس اللي ننسخ من الأول الجملة لآخرها نحطها في الإجابة. إذا القصة عادة فيها إجابات زي هيك معناها it's more of telling than showing. Okay? But if you come to this understanding that, oh yeah, the story, what does the story teach? What do you learn from the story? The story teaches us this and that. One more reading.
Yeah.
Okay. I promise to get back to maybe units.
We live in a big apartment that was originally two open to each other. The lift one was right above the flat of a wanted man for the Israeli war military, obviously. In the last war, 2014, we had my married sister at ours. I can never forget when she suddenly gazed blankly for a while, then uttered, "Okay, I will lay two of my kids, a son and a daughter, on the left side, and the two other will be laid on the right one, so that if they bump the wanted flat on the left, I hopefully don't lose them all, and still have the two on the right side."
My God.
Yeah.
Did they survive?
Yeah.
We've seen this, by the way.
They survived.
We have seen this so many times, but we've seen this in pictures. كان في صورة واحد في الوظيفة الوكالة موزعين. We've seen this and it was really shocking. How you sleep like in different areas and places so you don't want to die together. But if ناس جابوا صورة قال لا, he wanted to bring everybody, so if they die all together and leave nobody alone.
I remember.
Okay.
I remember my mother when she said in the last war, was the second war for us. She said, I prefer to die together then maybe I will lose some of one of you. So she prefer to die together, not like you.
Yeah, so no one be left like with sorrow and
Like the thing I want, like, for this story as a reader, I want to know, as a reader, I want to know why, like, there's something called suspension of disbelief, where you just take things for granted. أضرب عليها مثال بسيط دائما، بمعنى لو واحد طلع في الطيارة ما حدا يسأل طب شرى تذكرة كيف طلع في الطيارة؟ كيف ممرج في هذا؟ خلاص بأفهم إنه أنا مش في الأمور. I don't want to tell because they're not necessary for the story here. But there are things for readers here. They want to know why you, for example, why you remain there. As we want to know this. You need to explain this in the story in a way, more showing than and telling, by the way. How did it happen?
How did she choose which two should be where?
Exactly. But again, I'm not expecting everything. I'm not expecting everything here because this is just still one tiny
and you cannot fulfill all the questions. I mean, yeah, everyone can ask a different question, but you cannot answer all the questions.
Okay, someone else, and then we're going to check one of the guys. Go on.
Okay, now I'm just going to step back from the war whatsoever, and I'm talking something a little bit social. Okay. How come do you live away from your parents? Well, we live here with you, and we didn't leave you. She just popped that question yesterday while we're sitting together having our usual chit-chat. I was shocked, and for a second, I mesmerized, and I lost all the words that could convey the meaning. Then I pulled myself together and told her joking, so, shall I leave you and go back to my mom's house? She said, no, Mom, I'm just asking, but be sure that I won't leave you. That was my 4-year-old daughter sitting.
Your daughter, 4 years old?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you want her to read again?
Yes.
Go on.
Okay. How come you live away from your parents while we live here with you and we didn't leave you? She just popped that strange question yesterday night while we're
شو المقاطعة؟ لما قالت strange question, she told us that you have to take this question as strange. Yeah. تمام؟ فإنه is that okay? Doesn't mean telling is always bad. But you have to be careful what to tell and when and how. Telling always means, for some people it's insulting. Insulting كيف يعني insulting؟ ما كانش تقول لي يعني. خلاص أنا ما خلينا نفكر. Okay, go on.
While we were sitting together having our usual chit-chat, I was shocked, and for a second I mesmerized, and I lost all the words that could convey the meaning. Then I pulled myself together and told her joking, so, shall I leave you and go back to my mom's? She said, no, Mom, I'm just asking, but be sure that I won't leave you. Now that was my 4-year-old, her name is Sadiq.
Very good. Interesting. Like لاحظ القصة وين حصلت؟ ايش كيف حجم البيت وشكله, the size, the room, the color. Who else was there? أنا بسميها it's a story in vacuum, in space, hanging in space. So later on, we expect everything to be like a whole complete piece. Listen, and when I say this, when I say it has to be complete, doesn't mean you have to include everything. But when you exclude anything, it has to be part of the message in your story. We see stories without conclusions. Not sure if you read my short story. Students read A Case of Suspicion. A Case of Suspicion doesn't have an ending. We call this an open-ended story. It invites the reader to be part of the story. To think. To think of possible scenarios or like simply to be part of the story. To create suspense. In A Case of Suspicion, I asked myself, I think I once had like 100 students and I asked them to write a possible conclusion, and I think I got like 100 different conclusions from them. isn't that interesting and creative? But remember, I just said something about endings and writers and sacrifice. Maybe the writer
Didn't know which to choose.
didn't know which to choose, so he just left us for different readers. Because if he concluded the story, we can easily side with this or side with that. So he was like, this is up to you. You are a reader, you're smart. So I want, this is a casual, very, very casual chat between a mom and her daughter, right? Now, if we create a bigger atmosphere, like the war, like, see what I mean here? Like, when you continue your story, at the end of the story, I have to get out with a value. And I'll talk about this probably a little bit later. But when I say, I never go back to things when I say, I'll talk about them a little bit later. When I say a value, like when you read anything, بمعنى واحد طلع في السيارة، أنا بطلع في السيارة، بطلع في السيارة. لما تركنا السيارة ورحنا على المحاضرة وعلى الدار، رجعنا فكرنا في السواق والركاب وشكل السيارة أو أي شيء، إذا ما فكرنا فيها معناها nothing special happened, exceptional. The same thing applies to pieces we read, to poems we read. إذا ما كتبناش منها عبارة, phrase, clause, كلمة, line, sentence for Facebook or Twitter or whatever, didn't touch us. So we always go through this. There has to be something in the story that you take like a burden. You know what a burden is? عبء بيصير تحمله, بيصير جزء من شخصيتك, من حياتك, your character, your personality. Always include this. If the reader reads the story and says, okay, so unless this okay and so on, is part of the message. And you see, it could be funny. Someone here. Yeah. Go on.
Can I comment on that?
Just one sentence.
I just want to say why it's really good. Because she first started talking, and then you don't know who are talking, and then she gave you a little bit of pose, and then she was like, at the very end, this is my daughter, and she's 4 years old, and that was really good.
That's suspense. That's more of, how do you say, perspective. Where do you position yourself as the writer of the story? Sure. طيب هنسمع منه بعديها بدنا واحد او واحده منكم اللي نفسها يا ريت يعني نتمنى انها تقرا حاسه انه احنا يعني we're going to change. Not you. Okay. Go on.
Palestine 23. I heard this sentence when my friend's mom said it to me and her son before 7 years. This happened when he asked her to go out with me to visit another friend who had injured through the war. His mother asked me what happened to him. I told her that my friend injured when he went to buy a gift to me for my birthday, and suddenly the war plane shot rocket to a car. He went to a car walk in the road. He has injured. After that, friend's mom said that Palestine will be free. Actually, I asked myself, how can experience occupation will end? And what should we do to end this?
Very beautiful. Very good. Can you comment on this? I don't want to ask whether you want to say good or bad things. When you are giving feedback, مش حاجة اسمها يا جماعة bad feedback. مش حاجة اسمها ايش بسموها constructive criticism. Unless you want, because everything that is told to us, we usually, even our best friends, when they tell us stuff, we kind of feel uncomfortable, right? But we have to learn from this. So do you want to say something about this, please? Anyone? Yeah?
His voice is so quiet.
I will say you want to
Okay. My point here, before I move to someone else,
for your question, I want everyone to ask you, tell me how or what should we do to finish the Islamic occupation, or what we can do to finish it.
But can you do that in a short story? I think this is a huge question. Oh, Donald Trump, this is huge question.
I think 500 you can do it.
Okay. The only problem with this piece is that it included so many things. That's number one. Number two, it included very huge things. His story could only be about his friend going out to buy a gift for his birthday during the war and being killed. That's the story. So في ناس بيسوقوا بالفيرست درافت وبحس انها عزيزه عليه يعني فبدوش يخلص منها لا الفيرست درافت ممكن ناخذ منها sentence or like one sentence one idea one incident. That is the incident. You don't have, when you write story, you don't have to tell people free Palestine, you want to free Palestine. No. You can write, you are Palestinian, we're saying here, like writing Palestine. You don't have Palestine or Gaza or the West Bank, it doesn't have to be in your story. Because whatever you write as a Palestinian, that's Palestinian literature. It's going to be classified as Palestinian literature. فاحنا احيانا بنحس بالحرج انه طبعا كتبت القصه بس ما جبتش فيها كلمه فلسطين. طب نحطها في العنوان. طب نحطها في كذا. It doesn't have to be. It could be anything. Your story could like never mention any of the references to Palestine, but still be Palestinian literature. So I want you to think, to zoom in on this experience. Your friend going out, it's your birthday, he goes out to buy you a gift, and you elaborate on this. What happened and how it happened. Finally, that's the final thing here for this exercise.
I remember after 2 days of the last war, I headed to the sea with my family. Actually, I always prefer to sit alone on the beach as soon as my feet touch the soft sand. While I was listening to the nature and meditating to the golden shines of sun which were swinging over the sea waves, a soft voice interrupted my concentration. Why sea is so large? She was my little niece. For the briefest moment, I didn't hear her, but I was more conscious when she said arrogantly, I know why, because Allah opened the tab and forgot to close it. This is the first thing that made me laugh.
That's humor, right? We all laugh, most of us. Yeah. And that's during the war. After the war. Okay. It's still after the war, yeah. Still you don't have this thing. Can that be a good story? With a sense of humor, somebody like kids, how kids bring joy. We all had kids at our places during the war. And most of the time they are not aware of the war. Like we're terrified, we're horrified, but they're just playing and fighting and bickering with each other and picking on each other and just they don't want to calm down. احنا كان نخاطر نربط اولادنا في العمدان ولا لا؟ But can that be part of the story? Can like your story في إحدى القصص again Gaza writes back اسم محمد سليمان أخوي إسراء اسم القصة one war day حديث بين اثنين إخوة والحرب وبرا هم قاعدين بيتخرفوا في الليل قرأ الكتاب ومدرسة وبتعمل بتسوي very casual very brotherly dialogue very beautiful وبتيجي الحاجة وتفتح الشباك نفس اللي بيحصل عندنا في الدار وبكون الغرفة خانقة she opens the window and the sun gets in وبصحى في الليل في اثنين كلاب بيعووا بيضرب عليهم الجنية من جنية المية it's really very gripping ما فيش في هذه من القصص اللي أحيانا فيش فيها conflict but you still go on you want to read the story because this is me and my brother.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil the story because it's really an interesting dream. Can